my problem there is that I don't think you can build it around one single forward. Maybe it is a better option for a new franchise to get a guy that has proven their worth.
He could potentially become the best half in the game for sure.
Dragons, who are they building around? Kyle Flanagan, Clint Gutherson. Welcome back to Ahead of the Game Sports Chat, brought to you by bets.com.au, where Sports Pez Jez and Tuck's Sports Takes are editors on the site, writing game previews and a whole bunch of sports content to do with Aussie sports. And have I missed anything there, Jez?
Yeah, American sports we write about, motor sports.
Yeah.
So heaps of stuff. Anything sport related. That's what we do.
It's a good place to get free tips, free predictions, free previews. So head on over there and have a look at it. You'll see our ugly mugs on a bunch of articles there. But today's episode of Sports Chat on the Head of the Game is one that's going to be sticking around for a while, because we want to talk about who in the NRL would you build a new team around. And it's quite important given that we have two new teams on the way in over the next couple of years in the NRL competition. Whether or not these guys will be franchise players, whether they're even available for these two expansion teams, I have no idea. And I don't think it really matters. I don't really care. I just want to talk about who would you put at the center of a team and who would that team be good if you could build around them. And there's a bunch of guys you can choose, right, Jez?
Yeah. It was tough. Like in this, I think we're going to both throw our favourite of who if we had a new team, if we were the Perth Bears or if we were PNG, then who would we be looking to bring in? But yeah, there is a huge field of players at the moment. I think the talent is certainly alive when it comes to young guns, and even like a few guys coming up now in key positions. I think, especially in the halves, I think the NRL was in a little bit of a period where we haven't really seen any new young halves take over. You know, the latest one is probably, I don't know, I don't want to forget someone just on the spot here, but it's been like Nathan Cleary, who come from like nothing and has just dominated, because you sort of forget still how young Cleary is. But I think it's been, when you're looking at origin selection and all of these changes in the halves that are happening in 2025, you're like, okay, well, who would you bring in that's young? But there isn't really so much. But there's some guys that have just started playing NRL now, and either in their first year or second year, that are showing like a lot of potential at the moment. Like, so you've got players like Ethan Strange or Longy or Blaize Talagi. You've got these types of guys that have heaps of potential. So I don't know. It's tough. It's going to be tough.
So what we'll do here is, first of all, we'll talk about what kind of position or what type of player can you build a team around? Talking about building a franchise from almost like a GM perspective. And then I think we talk about what guys are on the fringe, or maybe the also rans out of this. And then we'll get to our top two picks, or our top one picks between us. But first of all, Des, the position I think is important. And you saw this with the emergence of the Dolphins. They tried to get a marquee player. They tried to get Munster. They tried to get who else? There was a couple of players they really went out hard to get. They didn't land really a proper marquee player. So they instead then tried to build their team around an experienced pack of forwards. My question to you is, can you build a new franchise around a front rower or a second rower or a hooker?
I'm going to say you can, but it takes longer. I think there's sort of two ways. If the Dolphins snagged one of these high-end halves, I think you give yourself a better chance of making the finals straight away. If you can also still do the work and get some good, solid forwards that are going to do the job. But you lose the ability to probably get the experience that the Dolphins got in the forward pack. Because I think now, like Wayne Bennett came close those first 2 years with the Dolphins, and it was just sort of a lack of depth. And it was a lack of depth in their halves, and you saw that they were lacking a bit of creativity. So if they would have nailed Munster as well, I think they could have possibly been there, and then you make the finals because you build your team there. But I think if you build your team around a good forward pack, you've got to wait maybe 3, 4, 5 years before you're going to be a contender heading into a season.
So my problem there is that I don't think you can build it around one single forward. You can't
No,
do it and say, okay, this guy's a great prop or this guy is a great edge back rower, and we're gonna every single decision about how we build this team is gonna be focused with that person in the center. I don't think
no,
their skill set is valuable enough, and I don't think they play enough time. Or I guess the second rower can play 80 minutes nowadays, but they're not involved in the game on both ends of the park enough to
no.
for me to warrant them being the guy on the team. Possibly a hooker. And I think
Yeah,
probably
even that's a stretch, really, isn't it?
well, to your point, it takes a bit of time for a hooker to mature in the NRL. You definitely do it around, Cam Smith, circa 20, what? When did he even retire? Maybe 2015 Cam Smith or something.
Yeah,
2018 Cam Smith. I don't know how old he is. But you wouldn't do it with a 20-year-old Cam Smith. You wouldn't do it with
no.
a 20-year-old Harry Grant. You wouldn't do it with a
Uh,
20-year-old Ben Hunt. Um,
yeah, I don't even know. Like, even if you brought in Cam Smith was a special type of hooker. Like, he controlled games. Cam Smith from the number nine. Like, I don't think there's very many hookers you would even consider being able to, like what we're discussing right now, to build a team around. I don't think there's very many hookers you could even put in that class. Like, I can't think of anybody else besides Cam Smith that has such an influence on a game to be able to build a team around.
no, no, you're right. And I think something that just kind of came up into my head now is we've focused, I think, without even talking to each other about it, on a young player, which is going to be
Mm,
the face of the franchise. And that's really excluding, like, if you would have picked a 29 or 31-year-old Cam Smith, because
yeah,
that's not even in our thought process now to build a new franchise around a player that's in the twilight of his career, but could be that person really. And if you think if there's a
yeah,
person in the
absolutely.
NRL that's 31 or 32 years of age, but still have a long career ahead of them, that possibly could be the guy you build around.
Yeah, but it's always hard to nail those type of players. I think when we're discussing Perth or PNG, getting getting one of these marquee players, like if Wayne Bennett couldn't get a marquee player, it's such a big risk for someone that is established in the league to go to a new franchise. Because, like, when it comes down to it, yeah, you're an individual and you want your individual accolades, but everybody wants a premiership. So I think when you're in those prime years of your career, you want to be making sure that you've got a shot at winning a premiership in the near future. And I think it's always such a big risk for one of these players that we're discussing that is that little bit older in their prime to go to a new franchise, because all of a sudden your career's over and you haven't had another shot at a premiership.
Yeah, but this is a thought exercise. We're not thinking, trying to put ourselves in their head. It's like, who would, from the outside, if you could get the guy, would you do it? And now that I'm speaking more about it, listening, maybe it is a better option for a new franchise to get a guy that has proven their worth, because you go for a young guy and maybe they just capitulate under the pressure of being the number one dude on the team that's supposed to carry them into the future. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll leave that there, I think, and we'll come back to it. I don't see a franchise player either being from the wing or even really from the centers. I think your franchise player's got to be part of the spine. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, 100%. I think even like when I was like doing the process of who I picked, I was even like looking at a fullback, and I think even there it can be also pretty tough. Like you need a special talent. That player you've got to believe has done enough, say, in this first year, second year of their NRL career to know that they're going to be a top two, top three fullback in the NRL. So it's really tough, and it feels like with fullbacks to be able to build around, you need a little bit more experience to be able to do that because fullbacks need to be so versatile. You need to organize your troops in defense. You need to also, be able to bark orders. And I think to get that respect as a young fullback is extremely difficult. So it would be a big call if you were trying to start to build a team and go, all right, it's going to be this guy, and then we'll find a half and a seven or a six that is going to bring the best out of him. I think that it's tough, but there is some talents out there that you could possibly do it with, but it goes much more slim.
All right. So my first guy that I thought of almost immediately in this process, but then kind of counted him out because essentially the team is already getting built around him. That's Isaiya Katoa of the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Now that the team has been set and the older heads in the forwards are kind of have moved on, they've changed their coach. He essentially is the main guy of that team. And I think the
Yeah.
future will be built around him. And I think he will be able to handle it. And I think the Dolphins have a very bright future with him at halfback.
Yeah. I was like the first couple of years almost, I don't know. I didn't think he was going to be able and eventuate into anything. But I think the back end of last year and definitely the start of this season, you're like, this kid's going to he's going to be great. He's going to be exactly what they need. And they just need to then find the other piece in the halves for him, because that's where things have chopped and changed a little bit there with sort of Sullivan and Nicarima. They've sort of moved around, but I think if they got brought in one of these experienced halves that could develop or get a little bit more out of Katoa, take a little bit of the pressure off him, I think you'd see him bloom even more. So yeah, you've watched the basics, I think, this year with his kicking game, and he's becoming one of the best game managers and territory managers in the NRL. And he is like, I don't know, I'd love to get up exactly how old he is, but I think he's pushing 22.
We're going to have a look. While I'm looking for that, who is your player or
Born in 2004, he's 21.
okay.
So, like, it's incredible. Think how young that is when you've got halves. How old's Cherry? 35, 36.
Hmm. Got a
So
long
there's,
long career ahead of him if you can
yeah,
keep it going.
yeah, and he's already one of the best game managers. So you think how the smarts in this kid in another 3 or 4 years. So yeah, definitely the Dolphins have snagged a good one there, and it's just finding now the other pieces and getting a bit of a younger pack.
Who have you got as a runner up or a guy that you thought about but didn't settle on?
There was a few, but I'm going to say Longy from the Eels.
Mhm.
I think what he's done in this first year, like he's just sort of come out of the blue. Pretty big shoes to fill at the Eels, filling in for Clint Gutherson. But I think he's come out and shown definitely that he's got that. I don't know. I was going to say the electricity, but it makes it the pun intended then, because he's certainly got enough to be a superstar at the fullback position. But it was, like I said earlier, it's a little bit hard. I don't think he's definitely doesn't have the same defensive commitment that Gutho has just yet. He doesn't have the size yet. I think definitely in attack, you're seeing him do some incredible things, and he's showing great signs of being one of the best fullbacks to come. But to build a team around, I think it's just a little bit too early, because you want to see that, I don't know, at least another season of maturity before I would start thinking, okay, what can we do with this kid at the back? And we need to
Mm,
find guys that are going to work well with him and put him in holes.
yeah. Another player, I guess, is kind of outside of the realm. He's, I think, played it a little bit too long to warrant being one of the guys we pick here. But Luke Metcalf of the Warriors has just
Yeah.
blossomed as a halfback. And if we're looking at kind of game managers, a guy you can rely on and see, in the shades of Cherry Evans being a one club guy until you're not anymore a one club guy, but staying, into your mid 30s and still delivering on a weekly basis. I think Luke Metcalf could, if he stays at the Warriors, and they also have a great future ahead of them because he's such a dynamic player. And I think his IQ is so good that once his body becomes a bit older, he'll be able to make those more smarter decisions. And kind of a little bit like Adam Reynolds, he was a great
Yeah.
runner and very agile in his younger days. And now he's turned more into the thinker and doing the right things at the right time. And I can see that from Luke Metcalf, 10 years down the track.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been an absolute gun. I think for the Warriors, there was so many questions with Sean Johnson leaving, and Metcalf's just absolutely stepped up to the
Yeah.
plate. And I watch a fair bit of the Play On podcast with Sean Johnson, um, which is awesome. It's probably up like as my most favorite podcast at the moment. Sean Johnson is. We're supposed to be talking about Metcalf, but he's the guy you build a TV channel around. I think from
Yeah,
now,
he's so
he's
good. I
gonna
love him.
he's he's funny and he can and he's the way he breaks down games and his analysis of situations is second to none. He's come straight out of the game. It feels like he doesn't need any media training. You watch all these guys that are there now, like Braithen Astor and Cooper Cronk and stuff. They were awful when they started, but he's a
Braith is
gun.
still
But
awful.
anyway, yeah. But Metcalf was on there like joking around. Sean Johnson's like his mentor there, obviously, because he still does a lot of work, and he's just like he's so smart and so sort of comfortable in the player that he is. I think he's going to be. He could potentially become the best half in the game for sure. I just realised he's Australian. I wonder if he's Queensland or New South Wales.
Have a look at it
I
while
have to look.
I give a shout out to any Warriors fans that follow the Ahead of the Game channel. Give us some love in the comments. Tell us how bright your future is with Metcalf at the helm and how worried you were when Johnson left. But we want to get the feelings from our cousins over in the land of the long white cloud. They say, right?
Oh, is it? I've never heard that. How have I never heard that
What?
expression? Land of the long white cloud.
Have you figured out where he's from?
Yeah, Luke. This is AI Google shout out here. Luke Metcalf's state of origin participation has been primarily in the under 18s, where he was selected for the New South Wales Blues in 2017. In that year, he scored a hat trick in the Blues' victory over Queensland Maroons at ANZ Stadium.
Could we
But there
see
was the
a
photo. Strangely enough, the photo he was. Is that him wearing a Queensland jersey?
Could we see a Isaiah Katoa and Luke Metcalf half combination once Cleary and Moses move on?
What's that? What did you say?
Katoa, you're so bad at listening when you're doing other
I,
stuff.
yeah, I can't. I can't do two things. Impossible.
Isaiah Katoa, he's born in New Zealand and he's a Tongan international, but he can play for New South Wales if he chooses to. Could we see an Isaiah Katoa and Luke Metcalf halves combination in New South Wales once Cleary and Moses are done?
Oh, that's pretty scary. But there's another guy, my other guy, my next guy that could
Okay.
be in the mix as well.
Well, let's move on to that then. The
It's a
best
good
player,
segue.
best young player to build a team around from what we have. And we're not diving into anyone that's in New South Wales Cup or coming up the ranks. We're just looking at guys that have already debuted in the NRL and just to keep it kind of top level that most people know who they are. So, Jez, kick us off with your guy.
All right, I am going to say also because I think it's a very interesting situation of where he plays and what has happened, is Blaize Talagi. Um, I think I
Yeah.
saw enough. It's probably not so much on the basis of what he's done this year, but where he is this year makes me think that there is huge potential for him to be a superstar because of the explosiveness we saw in his debut year for the Eels last year, and his versatility also played a huge factor. And then now playing second fiddle in the halves, you could say, to Nathan Cleary, and getting all of that knowledge and game management skills and learning from Nathan Cleary and his dad, and in that Penrith system. I think eventually, I don't know how long his contract is there, but I think eventually he's going to be a guy that has these live wire skills that we saw when he played for the Eels, like stuff that he did in the halves where he was, creating plays from nothing and then and scoring tries himself, or getting try assists. And then also when he's out in the centers where he was just like running over guys, because he's only 20, 21 years of age as well. And is an absolute beast already. Like you see his thighs, they're massive. And then I love a guy with some good thighs.
That's what we're basing this
And
whole thing on, is how big your thighs
yeah,
are.
his thighs. I think last week we talked about something. Jamal Fogarty's biceps when we were
Yeah.
building a player. So and then he could also play fullback. So he was also filled in for Gutho a couple of times when Gutho was injured. So I think that makes him an absolute live wire. And I think you can definitely go, all right, you learn the game management skills from Nathan Cleary. And then if the opportunity come for him to go to the Bears or to play for PNG or even another team that's been sitting down at the bottom of the ladder, maybe the Tigers are going to get tired of Luai and take Taulagi instead. Like, I think certainly he's a player that you can go, all right, we bring him in and we can build around him and we'll find the best position. And if that's at 6, like I think we saw, I think at a young age, 6 is really, really tough. It's really tough to be like a superstar straight away in the 6. I think we saw more talent from him, or more of his natural talent playing in the centers, or playing when he was playing fullback, because I think you got to wait a little bit to see the development and his understanding of the game to become a really good 6. But the what he can bring forward in the 6 jersey, which I think he needs to do more for Penrith, is continue that hard running game, because there's not enough hard running 6s anymore. And that's what the 6 used to be all about. It was like, leave all the playmaking and shit to the halfback. When you get the ball, you run at the line a few times, and then you show your playmaking skills, and pop a pass on the inside, or do a cutout when you're running at the line. But you've got to develop and show the defensive line that hard running. And I think he definitely has that, and needs to just go all out and start pressuring the line a little bit more. But I think that'll probably develop. Like, it was such a strange start for him. Like, what was your idea on him and how he started at Penrith? Like, not even playing in New South Wales Cup the first couple of games, and now they've brought him in.
Yeah, well, he wasn't even the second choice. He was, I think, 3 deep in the depth chart in the halves there. And I think that was more maybe to do with Cleary just kind of setting an example and setting a standard and saying, "Hey, you're not going to just walk into the team here." To give him a bit of a reality check, because he was getting so much credit coming from that season at Parramatta, where he kind of filled in everywhere and was so dynamic, and
Yeah,
commentators and media and even opposition players were just putting him up on a pedestal. And that can be quite um, damaging to a young player in terms of building their confidence in the right way, because a lot of those things aren't repeatable on a week to week basis. You need to learn the structures. You need to learn to when to do it, how to do it, and when it works best for your team, not
yeah.
just
You only won
do it.
5 games.
Sorry.
like they only won 5 games, so whatever he was doing still
Exactly.
wasn't enough.
So I think it was smart from Cleary to give him a bit of time to adjust to the system
Yeah,
in Penrith, and similar to the pick that I have after, I believe a guy that you're going to build a team around has to be versatile, has to be able to play multiple positions to give that the depth in the team because you're not going to be able to have great players in all positions. So then you need
yeah,
to be able to fill in if the guy's injured or if you manage to get a good halfback or not. Hey, we had to spend the money on a fullback, or we had to spend the money on a hooker. So now you're the half, or now you're the fullback, or whatever it is. And I think Talangi has the skills. I probably haven't seen enough of his halfback game management skills, and that's not to do with him not being able to display them. It's more to do with
mm,
him having not being in that position in an NRL team to do it. I think a guy of his caliber probably has that in him, just given the chance he'll be able to do it. And it'll at some time or other over the next kind of 2 or 3 years, I think he'll have that chance, and you'll see it probably more now in the years with Cleary if he keeps continuing this Origin run and Australian, however the schedule turns out. I think Talangi will have a bit more of an opportunity to take the reins in Penrith and show what he has.
mm, yeah, yeah. I think his ability to be able to develop under this time. Like I think you hit the nail right on the head with him of yeah, coming in and coming back down to earth, being in Penrith, and that's why I like it even more. I think that was a a really good call of Cleary to do that, Ivan Cleary. Um, and I think now it's just like, okay, now you're getting your chances, and I think we're just going to see him get a little bit better and a little bit better in playing in the halves. And then I think you can see sort of next year, the year after, they're going to have this incredible halves combination again with him and Nathan that are going to be able to take on the world.
Yeah. All right. A guy that I almost picked was Jackson
Ooh,
Purdue from the Cowboys, but I couldn't not take Fletcher Sharpe,
yeah,
the
I can't believe I
Newcastle.
didn't think of Fletcher Sharpe. I was so pissed off when you said you were going to take Fletcher Sharpe. I was like, that didn't even fucking come into my brain. Like, I still think obviously Talangi, but like Fletcher Sharpe's a fucking live wire, man.
There's just so many things with this guy that allow you to build a team around him. And in
His
his
haircut
if
first.
first and foremost, it sets a standard from the get go.
Yeah.
I think you probably see a similar thing in terms. If I look first at the negatives, he hasn't had maybe the same amount of opportunity as a halfback either, and I don't think he is an out and out half. I think he's best when he's running, and you've seen that when he's played on the wing, in the centres, in the fullback, and at 5'8". I don't think you build a team around this guy as a halfback. I think you get a
As a halfback or 5'8"?
sorry.
At halfback or 5'8"?
No, you don't build a team around
No.
him as a halfback. You build it around him as any of the other positions on the field.
Mm,
And I think
mm,
if you can get a guy, it could just be a Toby Sexton. I don't rate that guy at all, but he just plays a role at the
mm,
Bulldogs, allowing everybody
mm.
else around him to shine. And he just has a couple of jobs: do this, do this, do this. You're
Yeah,
not the guy that's going to win us the game. You're the guy just to distribute and kick the ball. And I think
yeah,
that's what a little bit at Newcastle, he's competing a little bit too much with Kalen Ponga to be the guy that helps them, and they don't have a halfback to just do the normal shit. That's why I think
yeah.
they're struggling. But Fletcher Sharpe, he scored 10 tries this season already. He 11 line breaks, 3 line break assists, 3 try assists, 42 tackle busts.
Yeah.
He's just a machine.
How many games does he play? Like for me, like they're great numbers,
Oh,
but
sorry, I was
I
looking
even
at the wrong
thought,
line. That was Kaoliro. 10 tries, still 11 line breaks, 4 line break assists, 2 try
Yeah,
assists, 59 tackle busts. So it was even better than
there you go.
Kaoliro.
Yeah, there you go. Kaoliro is also an absolute monster. Um, complete side note. Kaoliro's try scoring run that he's on at the moment.
Yeah,
It's
9
like,
consecutive games.
yeah, it's
Mental.
crazy.
So,
But he's been injured in bits there. But like even that, like I feel even Fletcher Sharpe had like their high numbers. I thought that would even be higher because the impact that he has. But it's just because anything you look at in Newcastle, it's either Ponga or Fletcher Sharpe.
yeah.
So
So he's played 25 NRL games, scored 21 tries.
wow.
He has played 7 games in reserve grade, 6 tries, and
And it's
he's
because
played.
he's creating himself. Like, think how much Newcastle are struggling. You've got those numbers in a team that has the worst attack in the NRL.
Yeah.
So, like, that puts it a little bit into perspective for you. Is it's the shittest attacking team, but you're almost scoring a try a game. Like, like that's incredible.
So he played in the PM's 13 last year, and they beat PNG 42-20, and I think he scored a try in that game as well.
Yeah.
Um, and he played fullback. So I think if I if I'm thinking, okay, build a team around this guy, I'm not building that team in Perth. I'm not building that team in Papua New Guinea. I'm building it in Newcastle. I'm getting rid of Kalen Ponga. I'm getting rid of Adam O'Brien. I'm getting rid of Jackson Hastings, Tyson Gamble, Jack Cogger, the British dude they have, or maybe don't have anymore. Yeah, like 5 different halfbacks that never of them are any good.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing in, um, a guy like
So
Toby
you're going to play
Sexton.
him at fullback. You've obviously got Dylan Brown going there on millions of dollars.
Yeah, yeah,
You're keeping that alive.
that's what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna build out, get myself a halfback and a coach that can work to his strengths because he will
Yeah.
lead this
Imagine
team
if Jamal
to
Fogarty went
glory.
up there.
That
Jamal
was the
Fogarty,
guy in my
Dylan
head, but
Brown, and Fletcher Sharpe. Like,
yeah,
imagine that.
yeah. I think he's
Who's
such a
and
dynamic player. He's good all around the park. He's good in multiple positions, and that's if you're gonna and just his aura. Seeing it through the TV screen. He's just like, I want to be
yeah,
on that guy's team.
imagine that spine: Fletcher Sharpe, Dylan Brown, Jamal Fogarty, and Jaden Brayley at the hooker if he stays
Yeah,
on the field.
yeah.
like, like
It's strong, man.
there's your yeah,
And then
build a
Bradman
bear
Best in the
right there.
centers,
Yeah,
Marju on the wing. Like you got
yeah.
a good team.
What's happened to Marju? He was a beast.
I mean, he's a beast. He was just out injured for a while. He'll be back.
Yeah,
All right. Well, they're the two guys to build. If you're going to build an NRL team, listen up,
heard it
GMs
here first.
and head of operations and all that. You've heard it here on Head of the Game. You can pick guys like Kalen Ponga. You can pick guys like Viliami Kikau. Who was he the first one to the Bulldogs? Who was the first one to go to the
Uh,
Bulldogs?
yeah, he was the first one of like their big
Crichton.
signings until. No, he went before. Kikau went before Crichton.
You could pick Jerome Luai or Api Coruscant or Sania Taru if you're the Tigers. You can pick who else is in a rebuild? I don't know. Dragons. Who are they building around? Kyle Flanagan, Clint Gutherson.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Or you could pick a guy like Purdue. You could pick a guy like Isaiya Katoa. You could pick a guy like Blaize Talagi. You could pick a guy like Fletcher Sharpe. And
Yeah,
they're the two guys that we've picked out to be the best guys to build a team around in the NRL moving forward. And they're the guys that are going to be successful in winning premierships over the next 10 years.
yeah. I heard the first rumor of a player going to Perth today.
Who?
Um, Angus Crichton.
Oh,
He's on a contract year. And you know what? It's the power of Meninga, mate. He said he'd love to stay at the Roosters, obviously, but he's like, I could also. He dropped the bomb himself. He's like, to play under Mal again. He's like, Mal's the best coach I've ever had.
Oh
So
wow.
to play under Mal again, like I wouldn't be disappointed with that. That's like the first little like rumor of anybody going over there. So it's pretty huge. The power of Mal Meninga, man, could see them build a pretty good team straight off the bat.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
already talking about stuff like we've talked about on one of our other shows, where we talked about um, how the Bears would survive and how it would work in certain conferences and things like that. And they there was already talk about them going on runs in New South Wales and basing themselves in North Sydney
Mm.
for certain weeks, and teams also sort of doing the same thing. Um, back playing like, say, the Warriors coming and playing Perth at North Sydney,
Yeah.
so they
Yeah.
don't ever have to make that long trip, either team. So
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
Very much so. All right, let's wrap this up. Don't forget to head over to bets.com.au for a heap of top level game previews, tips, predictions, all free. And you also get some pretty good top odds across Australian bookmakers there as well. We will be back again to do a similar take with AFL in the
Mm.
not too distant future. But check out all the videos here on Ahead of the Game and head over to the bets.com.au YouTube channel as well to see up to date game previews there.
And you know, when they build one of these teams around Mr. Fletcher Sharpe over in the Perth Bears, that you heard it here first and you stayed ahead of the game.